Hello everyone and welcome to another Avatar episode, this time looking at something that I picked up on whilst doing my highest and lowest rated reaction videos for Legend of Korra, specifically in relation to how Tarrlock and why Tarrlock basically decided that it was the right decision to kill him and his brother, two bloodbenders, and why I think the whole reason behind it is also why bloodbending was banned. And that's because bloodbending in itself corrupts the bender. Now, the thing that I really want to focus on here is the fact that from everything that we've seen to do with bloodbending, it is a very dark form of bending just in general. Everything about it is hostile. It is not intended to be a good or kind thing to those who are using it to their advantage. As we saw with Hama, the first bloodbender that we are aware of, she used bloodbending to torture people. Now, that was due to the fact that she was traumatized from the amount of war crimes that were committed against her and possible experimentation. Video here to go check out my video about that. But I think the thing that's really interesting about Hama is that she doesn't seem to be the person who would have harmed innocents. Now, the whole thing is that she ended up turning on civilians instead of those who committed the harm against her. And while it was the nation as a whole, it was those in power and those with the power to harm her that had been doing these things, and most likely the normal citizens had no idea what was going on. But bloodbending literally drove her insane. She was trapped in a box and she was learning to basically torture to kind of gain a sense of understanding of herself and kind of a sense of sanity as well. She was already kind of being driven insane by the fact that she was isolated and, you know, basically fed through a small little cup and had no human interaction except for maybe when she was being experimented on. The only comfort that she had was the full moon when it arrived, so only once every month, and the rats that visited her in her cage. That's all she had, but she could feel the power of the full moon and could feel something within these rats, and that just kind of slowly drove her mad until she eventually learnt how to bloodbend. And the fact there is this sense of power, this need to feel powerful whilst using bloodbending, and the fact that she's willing to kill these children, who, two of which are actually from the tribe that she's from, so two people who are connected to her in some way. It just shows how far bloodbending had pushed her. Adding to the fact that when Katara learns, at first she is devastated at the fact that she has even the capability of being able to bloodbend. But when the trauma of what happened to her as a child faces her once again, she has no qualms with using bloodbending to her advantage. We've never really seen Katara at this point of sort of a glee to harm someone. She's never kind of wanted to really hurt anyone in some way. Yes, she's kind of done some crappy things and has talked to people in a way that is not kind. But she wanted to hurt this person. This guy on the ship, the way that she bloodbended him, it's like she needed to do it. She wanted to keep going, and she took it very, very far. When she did meet the man who had killed, you know, her mother, it appears that possibly the full moon isn't there anymore, so she doesn't have the bloodbending capabilities. But not long after she's used bloodbending, she is about to murder someone. Something that I don't think Katara normally would have ever have considered. I don't think she's someone who takes the idea of murder lightly, or the killing of anyone. She is someone who heals. She is a healer. Not in the derogatory sense like Paku used to say that women are just healers, but that is something that's ingrained in who she is. She knows what it's like to feel pain and have it inflicted on her by others, and doesn't want to do the same, or at least not intentionally. But at this moment, she intends to kill, but thankfully doesn't go through with it. And in my mind, I think that's half because the bloodbending that she's had, this ability to feel the insides of another person, what it still has this sense of feeling sickening, even though there is this intense power behind it. So I think the fact that she didn't use it often enough means that she had the ability to pull back. But then we look at people like Yukon, for example. Yukon used it whenever and however he wanted for power. He had no intention to feel a sense of guilt behind it, because he was doing it for his own advantage. He had no sense of morals or morality or, ethics as a person. So much so that even though he left and he found someone to love after he changed his identity, the moment he finds out that his sons can waterbend, this sickness within him returns. He becomes cruel and unkind in a way that we hadn't seemingly seen previous, because they were a happy family until, as Tarrlock says, until he and his brother showed themselves as waterbenders. And then the same happens with Tarrlock and Amon. Tarrlock hated bloodbending. He was disgusted by it. And yet he still had the capability. And so with that in his veins, the fact that he used it enough that it can corrupt him and corrupt his integrity as a person. And not necessarily like the corruption of bending and the person, but more the soul. This corruption of a person's soul and their morals through this. Sort of like a blocking of the chakra in that sense. Tarrlock tries to do the right things. He wants to make the world better, in a sense, use his power for good. But as we see in book 1, he isn't capable of that. He turns things around so poorly. He turns on people easily. He is quick to anger, quick to judgment. And when the going gets tough, he resorts immediately back to bloodbending and cruelty. It's like a switch that has gone off in his mind, and he is gone from the person who was trying not to be a bloodbender. Same with Amon/Noatok. He was an excellent student of bloodbending, and yet he hated bending and benders, which is why he became Amon, to take away people's bending, to cleanse the world of benders as best he could, because he was sickened by himself and what his father taught him. This corruption of his soul, instead of it being something that he used against others, which he also did, he harmed others because he could and he wanted to. He saw people as infected, in a sense, like he was. And so I think that's why, when it came to it, that Katara banned bloodbending, because she knew and felt what it had started to do to her when she was younger. Or maybe even there was a chance where she used bloodbending at another point and nearly took it too far again, and she realised what bloodbending can do to others. In the same way that Tarrlock knew that both he and Amon, they could start over, they could try, but the grips of bloodbending were still entrenched too deeply into who they are as people. They would never be able to escape from the possibility of falling back into this sickness that they have. Bloodbending is a sickness. It is a virus, in a sense, to the benders who use it and have the capability to do it, because it is immoral. It is cruel for the sake of being cruel. It has no, from what we can really realise, benefits that can help people on a larger scale, because there is always the chance that it can be taken too far for someone to use it to their advantage. And so that's why bloodbending is banned. That is why Tarrlock killed himself and his brother, because he knew that no matter where they went, no matter how much they tried, they were already corrupted by bloodbending. Now, I don't know if any of that made sense. I just realised I hadn't actually written any notes for this. It was just kind of coming off the top of my head. But it's something that was really interesting to me, because it was such a big question that people had of, why did he do that? Like, why did that happen? And I think this kind of gives a bit of an explanation behind it, of this sense that bloodbending destroys a person's soul or humanity in a sense if they use it too much. And I think that kind of works, especially considering what Tarrlock and Amon kind of tried to do but failed because they fell back into the wrong things. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think it's possible that bloodbending corrupts a person so much so that it destroys who they are? Or do you think there's a possibility of another reason why they did what they did and why Katara banned it? Whatever the case, so let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. As always, in the description box down below, you'll find the links to all of my social media, my merchandise store, my PO box if you want to send me stuff, because, you know, that'd be nice. But also my Patreon, where you can support me there. Can't support me financially? Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Hit a thumbs up or thumbs down if you didn't like it. Share it with your friends, leave a comment, and yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.